Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Tuesday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well. Feeling great out there, staying cool. Chances are some of y'all, maybe most of y'all, are waking up to a much better atmosphere out there this morning as you're stepping out, heading off to work, or whatever you may be doing. But there's a lot of people, including my neck of the woods, that's waking up and walking outside, and it feels just downright awful and hot already. There is a front that has moved through and really cleared out the atmosphere for a lot of folks. I mean, even areas of the south central U.S. are waking up to some more pleasant conditions. I mean, the temperature isn't that low, but there's lower humidity. I think by the time we get into tomorrow morning, it'll feel even better for some of these areas. Unfortunately, this front did not really bring rain to a lot of these areas that need the rain, but at least we have the cooler temperatures, and we'll try to work towards the rain here for the future. But we got some severe weather to talk about. Again, yeah, I know. Trust me, I get tired of talking about it, guys. I'm really ready to talk about something else. But the good news is most of the country is going to remain storm-free. If you get some storms, not really expected to be that strong to severe. So this weak frontal boundary has really pushed off and really confined just to the eastern states. And there will just be a very unstable atmosphere ahead of this boundary. So, of course, we'll get some strong to severe storms, and I think we'll just get a broken up line that basically could expand from the Gulf coastline all the way to the northeast today. And some of these storms could pack a punch. We'll talk about who has the best chance to see those storms, how hot it can get. Yesterday was horrible. Really one of the first things I thought of as it hit about 100 degrees just about in Columbia, South Carolina yesterday with a heat index of about 110, 115 was it was really hard for me to complain because I immediately thought about you folks in Louisiana, Texas, and how you guys have been dealing with this for a month and a half straight and with no rain, no relief to really cool you guys down. So it was hard for me to complain, but yesterday was the definition of just your hot. It was basically the August I remember growing up. We've had the last several Augusts here in the Carolinas have not been that bad, and August is notoriously very, very hot. Some people consider it the hottest month of the summer, but it just has not been that bad. But yesterday just stood the test of time, that's for sure. But enough of my rambling here. If you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. You guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. Just a reminder, you guys could skip that intro. About 5 or 10 minutes after I drop these videos, I put timestamps in these videos. I had a snarky remark yesterday, and I try not to acknowledge most of them, but when you're passionate about what you do, sometimes you just can't help yourself. And I appreciate folks sticking up for me, and it really, everybody joining together just really shows the family-like atmosphere we have here. And I mean, I'll go on and tell you straight up, this channel is much different than other channels, and it's not a knock on anybody else, but like I've said many times, I try to talk to you guys like you're right in front of me. I don't try to talk at you guys. I don't like that approach. I'm not natural at that approach. So just thank y'all for the amazing support. All right, I've rambled enough. The water vapor loop. Let's see if this thing's working. The water vapor shows it beautifully what's going on out here. You see this big swooping area of kind of doled out colors. That is our drier air pulling down behind this upper trough. And basically, this is the gradient. There's a little bit of dry air even in this kind of whiter color, milky color right in here, but this is really the gradient right in here of the really noticeably dry air and the very moist air. And this is sinking southward. So with it, I really think tomorrow morning you'll wake up to some very pleasant conditions pretty far south. I mean, if you can get some temperatures in the mid-60s in mid-August, that's nice. It's just a preview of what's to come. The changing of seasons is really close by. And with this, you got this upper trough digging right down here with the associated surface low right in here, spinning around, giving some showers and things like that. To Michigan, this will continue to sweep across and make its way into the northeast. And ahead of this, you got a ripe air mass for showers and storms out ahead of this, and it'll be very hot in this area right here in the line today. I mean, it'll get blistering hot today for southern Alabama, Georgia, the Carolinas, up into Virginia, Florida. This with the heat, humidity, with the actual air temperatures, very hot. And then we got this tall ridge building out west, bringing near record or record-breaking high temperatures today. as far north as Washington State. So that's what's going on based off water vapor loop. Let's see what's actually falling from the sky out here. And I got this a little mixed up here. We'll click here. This is our actual surface low associated with our upper trough. And we'll get this back in motion here. And this is spinning around over the state of Michigan this morning, bringing a little bit of rain to northern Indiana. So, you know, who wouldn't want a nice rainy morning sometimes? This is the time of the year where any rain helps. It's so hot. Of course, up here in Michigan, it hasn't been that hot. But especially for the south, I can tell that my yard's already heat stressed. I can tell that the summer prime in my yard is long gone from July. And I'm starting to get definitely some lighter colors in the grass. Even though we haven't went too long without rain, you can just tell when it gets super hot. I mean, if you go 3 or 4 days without rain, I mean, it starts to stress out, you know, vegetation, yards, things like that. But definitely waking up to some nice rains in Michigan. Just a huge chunk of rain right over the southern New England region. It's raining like cats and dogs in areas of southern New England, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island. You even got some flash flood warnings out on Long Island. And if you go out to Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket, you guys are certainly seeing some really, really heavy rain, maybe some low rumbles of thunder out there too. Southwest PA seeing some showers, some downpours. And we'll watch this area right here out ahead of this surface low. And this could be ripe for some strong to severe storms. And we could get a tornado warning or two up here associated with the surface low, which will enhance kinematics up in this region right up here. So we go down here. We got a broken up area, showers and storms that will re-intensify as you have big time heating up into this region of the Carolinas and Georgia today. So this line will continue to make its way eastward. And I really think it'll intensify as it gets to the other side of the southern Alps. And I think we could get just one swooping line of storms that moves through. I don't think it'll be well intact, but I think it could pack a punch today for the Carolinas, Georgia, all the way down to the panhandle of Florida for sure as we move into the afternoon hours. And speaking of the severe storms, we got the marginal risk that extends all the way to the panhandle of Florida, all the way up to southern New England, and then there's a weird extension that goes pretty much all the way to portions of like Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. And that is because it's association of our surface low, which I will expect maybe a small tornado threat into this region. Level 2 out of 5 risk right here where the atmosphere really, really builds. Cape levels really spike into this region. So I think you have an elevated area you need to watch for damaging winds, basically from almost Charlotte, Raleigh, Norfolk, Virginia Beach, almost to Richmond, and then into portions of the southern Delmarva region. Tornado risk, there's like a trio of risks today. One in southern New England, one in southeast Virginia, northeast North Carolina, and then one up here in the southern tier, kind of Finger Lakes region of New York State and northern sections of PA. So that's associated with our little weak surface low with this upper trough swinging through. So kind of a weird trifecta up here, if you will. So we'll watch for that tornado risk for sure. Damaging winds, there's a 15% risk of winds exceeding 50 knots or higher. That's 55 to 60 miles per hour. We'll watch for some damaging winds and some really gusty winds with some of these storms. Hail threat, just that 5% risk of hail, not really big at all. Excessive rainfall outlook. I mean, we'll watch in North Carolina, areas of southeast Virginia. There is a slight risk, at least a 15% risk of flash flood guidance being met. But overall, I'm not expecting a big flooding risk today by any means. But of course, with any kind of summertime storms, they can produce a lot of rain really fast. So this is the big story today, I think. Not, the biggest story, but one of the stories is, you notice how all these heat advisories, excessive heat warnings are beat down. They're confined to the Gulf Coast, the southeast, and to the Carolinas. Well, that just tells you the story right here. As the dry, cooler, I say cooler, but it's not cool by any means, but it's cooler air mass has dug southward and has really just eliminated all the heat advisories for a good chunk of Texas, northern Louisiana, Arkansas, where you guys have just been dominated by this heat all summer. So for now, you get a break. It kind of broke the back of the heat somewhat. And I think that, I think some of this will cut off even into tomorrow for these areas of like Louisiana and Mississippi too, potentially. It just depends on how far south this boundary sinks. But no heat advisories, no excessive heat warnings. I think today might be the day that you break your streak of consecutive 100-degree days for some towns and communities in Texas. Pacific Northwest, record-breaking heat, excessive heat warnings up. Certain areas, even this far north, will get well above 100 today. We'll talk about that. Flood watches up for areas of southern New England, the Northeast, and ongoing right now for Michigan because of the surface low. So that's kind of what's going on with the advisories, things like that. The Southeast, we'll take a broad look at this really quick. And really the story is these storms will re-intensify on the other side, the eastern side of the southern apps, right on top of Atlanta, maybe all the way down to Montgomery, Birmingham region. And then all these storms, which I think could be strong to severe, I think we'll have numerous severe thunderstorm warnings today, will sweep through Georgia, down to southern Alabama, even southern Mississippi, maybe even the Bayou of Louisiana, all the way through the central Carolinas, and then we'll just have standard pop-ups in Florida. And this will continue, and then this boundary will stall out. All right, and so I think that this will lead to the rest of the week being pretty stormy for many areas in the eastern Carolinas. We'll talk about that. I think this boundary will stall out, and unfortunately for us folks like in maybe southern Georgia, the eastern Carolinas, the dry air will struggle to really get in. So while our neighbors in Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, even the western Carolinas, North Georgia, will experience this dry air that's pulling behind this weak cold front, I really think this is going to struggle to get to us a little bit further confined to the actual Atlantic Ocean. So we'll take a closer look to all these areas. We'll pretty much fly through this because this is just one standard swooping line of storms that'll move through. But these storms will develop. I think, just south or maybe along the Birmingham area, I think they'll develop right on top of Montgomery, potentially sweep through the Atlanta area this afternoon, Columbus, Georgia. We'll get some storms all the way down near Mobile, Alabama, even the panhandle of Florida. These will continue to sink southward. I think it'll be a stormy afternoon, early evening for southern Alabama, even getting into southwest Georgia. We'll talk about the rest of Georgia here in a second. And these will continue. These could cause some flooding issues because basically this front really flattens out. So the flow of the storms really slow down here, really becomes kind of parallel, if you will. And these storms will sink all the way, and the rest of the energy will sink all the way into the panhandle of Florida overnight tonight. So these storms could produce damaging winds, some hail. You never can rule out a tornado threat, but I would say the tornado threat is very, very low with this setup. But I think these storms could pack a punch. There's going to be big-time heating ahead of these storms. So please be aware of this. If you live up that, Interstate 20 corridor, Interstate 85, my bad. Interstate 85 up to Montgomery, all the way up to LaGrange, all the way up to Atlanta, then across 20 into South Carolina. Be careful with some storms later this afternoon. They'll develop, could pack a punch. Florida, standard activity. I would actually say today is a little bit, it's popping off in the Bahamas, but it's a little bit less active, but you're going to be dealing with just some standard pop-up showers and storms, and some of these could pack a punch just with the highly unstable atmosphere down here in Florida. So just really anywhere in Florida could experience it, so don't be caught off guard by these storms. The Carolinas, these develop, like I said, North Georgia, upstate South Carolina, PD, western North Carolina. It starts to get pretty stormy about mid to late afternoon in the Greenville-Spartanburg area. These affect the Charlotte area around the same period, could affect Hickory up to Winston-Salem. I think that, the severe level could be more intense up here near Raleigh into southeast Virginia. But, at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if they extend the slight risk all the way down to South Carolina. But either way, I think the risk remains the same. This is what it could potentially look like around 6 p.m. Just a broken up line of storms sweeping through associated with this surface weak cold front around 6 p.m. And like I said, just heed the warnings. This is just one line, if you will. It's broken up, but there isn't really anything behind it. Okay, so this moves through, creates some strong to severe storm activity, and by the time we're at 9-10 p.m., you could be seeing a lightning show off to your east in the Myrtle Beach and Charleston area as these storms move towards the coast and then off. But then this weak cold front really just stalls out. So you lose the flow basically from west to east with these storms, and they just start to kind of just go more so southwest and northeast, and that's because this front stalls down, stalls out. Can't speak this morning, need to slow down. So, I think we could get into tomorrow, and then we have another round of strong severe storms that really gets going along the immediate eastern coastline of the Carolinas and Georgia as basically this boundary stalls out. So you're going to have a separation between probably very moist, uncomfortable air along the coastline of the Carolinas, and then a little bit more drier, stable air in North Georgia, upstate South Carolina, and the Midlands and central areas of the Carolinas will be kind of like right in the middle of it, unfortunately, and that's where I live. So I wish we can just get the dry air. But I'm telling you, ahead of these storms today, this is the heat index. First off, I want you to notice the heat index at around 2 p.m. up in Kentucky and West Virginia, there really isn't one. I mean, it's in the 70s, right? I mean, and then you, like, say if you're traveling and you're going across the Appalachian Mountains, North Carolina, Tennessee today, you'll go from one side of the mountains and it's like, all right, well, that's pretty pleasant. And then you immediately will get on the other side of the mountains and it'll be blistering hot. It's like you're entering just a totally different world. Very hot. These are heat indices, so feels like temperatures, not your actual air temperatures. But the heat index will get to probably 110 Columbia, 110 Fayetteville, 110, 115 in Raleigh, over 100 in Charlotte. It'll rival tomorrow. I'm sorry, it'll rival yesterday with how hot it was. So please be aware. It's just going to be brutal out there. In fact, my weather station, as of about an hour ago, we did not drop below 80 degrees this morning for a low temperature, which is kind of uncommon. My folks up here in the Northeast, I think we'll get some storms that develops in Pennsylvania. They sweep through. These could have a bit of a tornado threat with them. We need to watch out for this. These move into the southern tier, Finger Lakes region of New York State a little bit later today. And we need to watch out for a brief tornado risk with this. And we'll just go on and zoom into each individual region. We'll talk about the Mid-Atlantic and areas of Pennsylvania here. And, as we get to about 2 p.m., 3 p.m., you see these storms developing in Virginia, around the Washington, D.C. area, around the Harrisburg region, getting into central PA, and then they become a little bit stronger, more widespread in Maryland, central Maryland, Baltimore region. I would watch out for these storms. They could pack a punch. You got pretty intense heating building into this region. And, this is around 5 p.m., a pretty highly populated region. Definitely some strong to severe storms around. Okay. And these eventually move into the New Jersey area around 7 p.m. And I think New York City, getting into Long Island, it could get quite stormy around probably the early evening, maybe around dinner time tonight. These storms can move in, pack a punch, even into Long Island. And you really want to watch these little cells right up here in Pennsylvania early in the afternoon, too. The surface low's near. You got some enhanced kinematics right here, bringing just a flow aloft, just a very small pocket of flow aloft that could support some spin with these storms. I would be careful with this, and I would be careful with these storms, too. You're going to have some kinematics working with these storms. They could produce an isolated tornado. Damaging winds, the biggest threat, but I would really watch out later today for sure. And, you look at the updraft velocity swath, it does highlight even in the area in North Carolina, but New Jersey, watch out. Areas of eastern PA, the Delmarva region, I'd watch out for a quick spin up today. I wouldn't be surprised we get a tornado warning and somewhere with these storms. Definitely be on guard with that. Move a little bit further north, my folks in New York. If you're in like western New York State, northern PA, like I said, just these cells that develop early in the afternoon, be aware of these. They could be spinning a little bit, but do they latch? It's hard to know. There is a 2% risk of a tornado in this region. But I would definitely be aware of these little cells that kind of move through these areas throughout the afternoon, the evening time frame. They could produce a tornado in this region with that surface low just nearby. But just in general, just some storm activity, some moderate to heavy rain. I don't expect anything too bad in this region, but you could get that isolated tornado. You just never know. South Central U.S., nothing to really speak on rain-wise. We get into this afternoon, this evening, overnight tonight. Maybe some storms try to get going right at the tail end of the surface boundary. down here in southern Louisiana. But unfortunately, no real rain chances with this. The droughts, I thought about not even pulling this up because this hasn't updated in about a week. But we do have the extreme drought in the heart of Texas. We have a severe drought in and around the Houston area, but this is probably worse. This was updated. The map, let's see, the map was released on August 10th, so it's even drier now for these areas. The drought is pretty bad. As somebody said, I think they live around the Austin, San Antonio region. A guy that I follow on Twitter, he says that it's gotten over 100 degrees, I believe, 41, 42 days in a row, and they haven't had any measurable rain in like 50-something days, or maybe that was vice versa. But that's incredible. With this heat, I imagine everything is just crispy out there. So, remember I told you guys that the way we break this drought is probably going to be some kind of tropical system. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm just saying that the way things work, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what ends up being what happens. Well, I'm actually going to talk about a tropical wave that is not forecasted to hit Texas yet, but all models are showing a tropical wave kind of skirting across the Gulf of Mexico and heading right towards Texas sometime next week. So please don't tell everybody and their cousin and their brother out there that Mitch said there's going to be a tropical wave that hits Texas. I'm just saying we are watching this. I'm going to talk about that here at the end of the video. But this is current temperatures out there right now, guys, in the south central U.S. And let's go on and update this. And I mean, it's pretty pleasant in Oklahoma, waking up to the 60s. You're waking up to the 70s in Dallas-Fort Worth area. I mean, it's still very hot and humid down here in kind of southeast Texas. But, you know, you're waking up to the 73, 75, whatever it may be in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, for example. But the dew points are pretty deep into the 60s. So that 75-degree low temperature feels pretty pleasant compared to what you guys have been experiencing. I mean, you got some cooler air moving into the Ozarks, some upper 50s showing up here. But tomorrow will be your cooler day. You'll walk out and you'll be like, wow, this is what I've been waiting for. And we'll talk about that here in a coming video. I'm going to try to get a video this evening, but I just cannot promise it. But just know that I think tomorrow morning will be very pleasant, pretty far south in this area. Temperatures up here in the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes region, it's downright chilly in northern Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan, northeast Minnesota. I've had a couple people tell me. And guys, if you folks don't know, I'm big on fall foliage. So wherever you live, as we get deeper into the changing of the seasons, give me a report on what the leaves look like. Now, just remember, sometimes, and I'm not going to name any names, but here locally, here in the southeast, especially the folks in the Mountain State, and they might be tuning in and they might get mad, and it's no hard feelings because I used to do the same thing. But a lot of people think the leaves are changing when really it's just a sick maple or something. A lot of people love planting maples and parking lots, and it chokes out their root systems. Maples are very, very sensitive trees from what I've noticed. I'm not a tree expert, but I like to think that I know some things about them because I take care of a ginkgo tree and an October glory maple in my front yard. But people love to just throw these maples in these concrete islands in these parking lots. And I would say 80% of them end up getting sick and dying, and their root system gets choked out. And what happens is it makes these their leaves prematurely turn colors, like in June, July, or August. But they're not changing colors. But a lot of people think they're changing colors because of the changing of the seasons, but that's not the case. Now, up here in the UP of Michigan, northern Wisconsin, northeast Minnesota, northern Minnesota, it's a little different. From what I've heard, that you start to see hints of colors as early as mid to late August. So you guys let me know what you're seeing up there. But you know, our folks down here, you know, will swear to you that the leaves are changing, but they're just not. They're not. But anyways, enough that, you know, guys, I like to get off on my soapbox there. But it's nice. I would love to wait. I can't wait to the first morning, just in the upper 50s down here in South Carolina. It's just a beautiful time of the year, in my opinion. But as far as moisture today up here in the north central U.S., nothing really going on. There's nothing really to speak on. We'll watch some showers that will drift over Lake Superior later overnight tonight. Might make it into the eastern UP of Michigan by waking up tomorrow morning. But outside of that, guys, there's not a drop of rain. We're watching our next upper trough that's going to dig down to the lower 48. This is going to spark a severe weather threat probably into tomorrow. We'll talk about that too. But for today, pretty nice weather. But we are watching this system swinging now. My folks out in the western U.S., we'll watch for some moisture in areas of California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, even into New Mexico, southwest areas of Colorado. Some areas could see a good little bit of rain today. We'll see what happens. But this will diminish with the loss of daytime heating. You got to stick to your local people with this. It just depends on where you live. But I would favor kind of northern or areas of Arizona. And then the southwest portion of Utah could definitely get some decent rain showers today for sure. Maybe even a storm. But it's really this tall ridge. The area you see in the orange and red here, that is higher heights, which stands for a ridge that is built into the Pacific Northwest. And you see this big blob of blue. That is our upper trough swinging in, bringing this dry, stable air in, and bringing in, basically pulling ahead of this upper trough, the atmosphere. It's going to support strong to severe storms today, but you got a ridge building out west, and this is pumping in a ton of heat under this ridge and on with this ridge. So your temperatures out west, especially the Pacific Northwest, I mean these lower elevation regions of Washington State, Oregon, California, Idaho, well above 100 degrees a day. Somebody might hit 110 degrees. Now, this isn't comparable to the heat wave that I think you guys experienced in the summer of 2021. I think someone in Washington State hit like 120 degrees, but it is going to be very hot for some folks up here for sure. I think Seattle hit like 104 with that heat, but you know, Seattle's not expecting to get that hot. At least we're not expecting that. But Montana, very hot today. Areas in those lower elevations, the flatter regions out there in the plains. High plains, you guys, upper 90s, low 100s, but no real heat index out there, lower humidity. But temperatures out east, beautiful air mass. Look at this. Look at the mid-south. Look at these temperatures in the Tennessee. Low 80s for highs. I mean, upper 70s, probably just more low 80s is probably a little underdone here. But, I mean, just beautiful conditions in the Kentucky. Maybe a little breeze. I mean, only 60s and 70s for highs in the Ohio Valley, 70s in the Midwest, the Northeast, 60s and 70s. But, man, it is blistering hot when you're hugging that Atlantic Ocean. It's very hot. So, yeah. Update on the tropics really quick. This wave out in front of the wave behind it has dropped to a 10% risk of developing in the next 7 days, but this is strengthened into a 30% risk. So we got two areas to watch, and this wave is still over North Africa, expected to come out into the Atlantic Ocean. But you know, it looks active. But guys, what I want to let you guys know, if you're seeing anything hyping up this stuff, and that's why I haven't talked about it much. There is also Saharan dust, an outbreak of dust coming off the desert that you guys, probably most people are familiar with, the Sahara Desert. In North Africa, a lot of dust, sandy conditions in the atmosphere. There's an outbreak coming off, and so in this entire region up here, it's very dry because of that dust, and things are going to have a hard time getting going. And I honestly think the operational runs, and I typically always preach on the ensemble runs, the operational runs are doing a fantastic job with. Yeah, they're kind of everywhere, but they're not showing any kind of wild scenarios. I think they're doing a great job staying level-headed. While the ensembles, you look at the ensembles, especially the European ensemble, just continues to just look frightening. But, you know, it's hard to believe that right now. And I'll go on to show you that. You know, you look at the European ensemble, you think, holy cow, things are about to really pick up. But, I mean, it's hard to necessarily believe that. Now, it does pick up on this area that has now dropped for a chance of developing. But what you'll notice is a lot of these L's, they go out to sea. You know, you can see the ridge axis has shifted a little bit further out into the northeast Atlantic. So this would symbol anything out in the main development region that does actually kind of overcome that dust out here, is probably going to head out to sea. Now, there's one area I'm watching that is growing some support, at least on the European ensemble, is this area in the Gulf of Mexico. There's a signal here by this weekend. You'll have a tropical wave that comes kind of over the Caribbean islands and then emerges into the boiling hot, not literally, but the very, very hot Gulf of Mexico, and then tries to develop into a little strong tropical wave. And you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Probably missed 1 or 2, but around 22, 23, 24 members out of around 51 members that develops some kind of appreciable low pressure and moves it into this drought-stricken areas of Texas. So it's something we need to watch for sure, and I'll show you a better look at that here in a second. But the GFS ensemble really only picks up on the second wave and, tries to strengthen it, but it just immediately heads on out to sea and really doesn't affect anybody. It doesn't even get close to Bermuda. Shows a little bit of a signal with that wave, but not near as much as the European ensemble. But the best thing to look at here is the 850 millibar Vort Max. This is basically trying to figure out a spin and a piece of energy, a spin in the atmosphere at about 3, 4, 5,000, 6,000 feet up in the atmosphere. And you see this little highlighted area. First off, you'll notice little pieces of energy everywhere. I mean, there's always energy in the atmosphere, right? But this is starting off around Saturday morning, this coming Saturday morning, August the 19th. You see this piece of energy kind of fly over the Florida Keys, and then it gets into the Gulf of Mexico. All right, and then it really tries to get a little stronger as it kind of tries to move into Louisiana and portions of Texas. So that is our tropical wave that the models are trying to pick up on right here. Okay, now it's too far out to get specific or if it's even going to happen. But I really think we should watch this. We should watch any piece of energy that could become tropical in origin that enters the Gulf of Mexico this time of the year. So that's all I got. God bless all y'all. Have yourselves a great day. Stay cool. Stay hydrated. If you folks that are getting cooler temperatures, I hope you guys really enjoy it. I mean that, even though I'm a little jealous, but certainly enjoy it, guys. God bless all y'all and have a great day.